Hey guys, welcome back to No Redemption Outdoors. And here we are for another COVID-19 lockdown edition of the Breakfast Club. It's April 27, it's early in the morning, and I am here in my office. I've been here maybe 2 or 3 times since this whole thing started, just because of the lockdown provisions. And most of my work I'm able to do remotely or from home, and that works out pretty well. But there are certain things you just have to come in the office to do. There's no other way to do it. So here I am, getting the job done. And I thought, well, this morning I should make a breakfast club. I haven't done it in a while, and today's the day. So I lined up a bunch of articles that I thought and think are interesting and sort of humorous. And I flipped on the camera 2 or 3 times, and each time I just shut it off and said, not today. It's just not working, not feeling it. And so this time I turned the camera on and I thought, you know what? Just be honest. Just talk. Stop trying to be something you're not. I'm telling you right now, I'm not upbeat and lighthearted, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I think everybody's feeling kind of the same way right now. This COVID thing and the lockdown and all that's going on, it's almost incomprehensible. It's so much to try to take in. And so it's okay to be overwhelmed by that, and that's how I feel. And it's a momentary thing. It comes and goes. It tends to be more an issue the more I watch the news, and I have a really bad habit of watching the news incessantly and surfing the net and all the news outlets. And can I just say what a toxic environment it is out there on the internet? And frankly, if you did not know that there was life outside the internet, you would swear that we're at the end of our existence. Like, it's so dark. It's hard to imagine, and frankly, it's a concern to me that we spend too much time in the internet, and therefore our vision gets clouded. But that's kind of the point of this. I guess the point of this breakfast club is today I wanted to talk about what's on my mind regarding the quarantine, the virus, and the measures being taken to combat the virus. I want to ask the question that has become very, very unpopular. It's almost taboo, but yet I'm hearing it asked more and more now. And that is, at what point do these lockdown measures and these other restrictive measures that are taking away our civil rights, when do those things become worse than the virus? Now, those of you who have been watching my breakfast club since the beginning know that going back as far as January 27, when I first talked about COVID, I said it then, and I've said it several times since then, and I'm going to say it one more time. The virus is something to be feared. It is deadly. It is worthy of being scared of the virus. But I think something that should be far more feared is the panic that comes and the restrictive measures that are being taken, the policies that will be put in place permanently, our new norm going forward. Those are things that maybe need to be more feared. And let me introduce something even more worthy of consideration. And I really want you to think about this, contemplate this. But if we keep things locked down the way they are, as it is, many people have already lost their businesses or their jobs permanently. Like, this isn't temporary for them. They don't get to go back to their job when this is all over. It's gone. Many more are going to lose their businesses and jobs as this continues. And when I say by the day, I mean literally by the day. Every day that goes by, the damage is mounting to our economy. And much of that damage that's already been done is irreparable or will take years to repair. We will be feeling this for years and potentially decades. It's just getting worse as the days go by. Now, my question to you, and the thing I want you to think about is, when people in mass numbers are losing their jobs or their businesses. They're losing their livelihood, their income, which they can't quickly replace because there are so many others in the same boat. Unemployment is off the chart. So you can't just go get another job. You lose your savings, you lose your home, you lose everything you have, your retirement, your hope. What do you become? You become desperate. And you have nothing left to lose. You can become a dangerous person. Now, multiply that out by hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of people who are now left desperate and have nothing left to lose. What happens when those people come together in mobs? What comes next? Do you think maybe that the consequence of that might be here a while longer than the virus? Now, again, this is the part where it becomes unfair. Because when you introduce this conversation, then what gets hurled at you is you just want to kill grandma. You don't care about grandma. You're selfish. Well, what happens to grandma if there's no money to buy food or no way to pay rent? What happens to grandma then? For that matter, what happens to the entire family? What happens to the neighborhood when half the houses become empty? We've been through this, folks, not that long ago. Who watching this video right now who went through that can't remember how that affected everybody? Whether you lost your home or not, your real estate became worth a fraction of what it was previously. It took years for those values to recover. Many people lost all their savings in the stock market, their retirement and everything. Now, imagine that event in 2008 is dwarfed by what's going on right now. And imagine the crowds of desperate people with nothing left to lose. What's going to happen, folks? Well, I think the minimum that's going to happen is our entire economy is going to collapse. And so even if you still have a job, what good is it if our economy collapses? You're not getting away untouched just because you still get a paycheck. Okay? This is going to touch everyone. And unfortunately, it could become violent. I dare say history is replete with examples of this over and over and over. We're not unique in history, and I know people think we are. People think that somehow or another we're different, but we're not different. We are human beings subject to human nature, and history tells us everything we need to know about how humans will act in any given situation. And I know there's a lot of folks out there that like to pretend like history doesn't apply to them, that somehow or another they're standing on the shoulders of giants that came before them, but they're just flying. I know there's a lot of people out here who think that. But I got news for you. We're not special, and anything that you want to know is going to happen, all you got to do is look backwards to history. Now, we got one small problem, because I don't know that there's an instance in history that compares to this one. This is truly unprecedented in human history. So it's very hard to know with any certainty, but I can tell you the general themes will still apply. Human nature won't change. And frankly, we are at a crossroads, because that human nature, that very thing, has the potential to take us to new heights. Human nature, when it's channeled in the right direction, does amazing things. And there, again, in history, examples on top of examples of the great heights that humans have been able to reach when we're at our best. But when we're not at our best, when we're at our worst, some of the things that we are capable of doing are unspeakable. And we have to make a choice. We're at a crossroads. We got to make a choice. Are we going to appeal to the greatness in humans, or in the dark side of human nature? Well, I'm very, very highly troubled by the way our media and our political leaders are playing this. I can forgive that they make certain policy decisions that maybe in hindsight were bad choices. Because in this instance, folks, nobody knows what to do. Everybody's grasping at straws here. So I can't fault anybody for making a good faith effort under the situation with the available information and making their best judgments. And that's all that you can do. And then as you go forward, new information comes forward and you adjust fire. That's a very reasonable thing. What I don't like is when political opponents use those situations as springboards for their own agendas to do nothing but criticize. And frankly, it's both sides. And I defy you, please show me one politician, just one, who isn't failing us right now. All of them are failing us on some level. Now, again, those failings that are the result of making their best effort and their best judgments based on the best data, those are forgivable failings. We as human beings pull together. That's where the best in us comes forward, and all boats are raised by a rising tide. But no, what our politicians and our media are doing is polarizing and pointing fingers and using every opportunity, every sentence as a gotcha, and this goes back and forth, and meanwhile Rome burns. So while Rome burns, our politicians and our media use that for their own gain. They propose all these absurd, quote-unquote, temporary policies. Just the other day, I'm watching a so-called news outlet, and I will not give them the dignity of expressing their name or the name of the news anchor who spread this wisdom, pearl of wisdom. I'm not going to do the favor of naming them so that people will click on them because they're idiots. But they sat there with a straight face and said that the whole reason for this corona thing and the entire situation is the result of capitalism, and that the only proper solution here is a suspension of all capitalism and all ownership of private property and the implementation of, get this, temporary communism. Now, where do I go with that? I could start with the low-hanging fruit, temporary. Name me one government policy, just one, ever, that was temporary. I can name the Temporary Patriot Act. Oh, wait. I could go on, I suppose. And so I imagine that we could put temporary communism in the same category. There's no such thing as temporary in government. But communism? The brilliance that was put forth by this anchor, she says, yes, capitalism is to blame for all of this. And communism is the solution. Did you leave out the part in your brain where this came from China, a communist country, and they first lied about it, and then secondly commit human atrocities that are unspeakable against their own people in the battle against this virus that they helped to get created by hiding this from the world? Never mind the lab. Who knows what's going on there? But let's just pretend for a second that this just organically and just spontaneously generated out of nowhere, and the CCP spent weeks, and some say months, hiding this. And so the problem here is capitalism. If that mentality gets traction, we're in far greater trouble than this virus presents. Please tell me, folks, that that's not going to get traction. I don't think it will, but there was a time that I don't think I could even imagine that dialogue occurring on TV, let alone with any sort of credibility given to it. Socialism is not the solution. Capitalism is not the problem. The problem is government that decides to hit the stop button without using any common sense. And I apologize if that offends you. But if you're a person who is still receiving income, then you are a very fortunate person, and I congratulate you, and I hope that continues to be the case. Because if you find yourself not receiving income and faced with the prospect that you may never receive income again, and that's a very real prospect for some folks, I dare say your perspective might change. And it's not fair to attack people who have this perspective, who have this fear. It's not fair to attack those people as though they're somehow or another terrible, like they want grandma to die. I'm just amazed by this accusation that gets thrown. I don't know. So anyway, I felt like I just needed to say that, and I know that's not going to do me any favors on this channel, but perhaps you'll forgive me. Perhaps it resonates for you. Perhaps it irritates you. And I imagine some of you may unsub, and I apologize to you in advance. But for some of you, maybe, this might generate some thought, maybe a new perspective. Who knows? I imagine everybody's already thought of this. That's one thing. I'm not particularly unique in my thought, but I tend to drill down into things. So, yeah. Anyway. Well, folks, that's it for today, I guess. There are some more productive things to be done than sit here and bellyache, so I guess I should get at it. And I think it's going to be a rainy day, so I'm not going to be able to get out probably too much. But I think over the next few days, the sun's going to get out a little bit. So we'd be sure to get out on the boat if we get a little bit of weather. But in the meantime, I hope everybody's staying safe and thinking about what comes next. That's it. Just think about what comes next. Anyway, until we meet again, folks, next time I promise the Breakfast Club is going to be a little more lighthearted than today. But, in the meantime, stay safe, get out there, enjoy the outdoors, spend some time with your family. Hopefully you get back to work soon if you aren't already. And I promise the next video will not talk about politics or even COVID. So we're going to get outside and have some fun and catch some fish. So with that, I will invite you to stop by, check us out on Instagram and on Facebook. Hit the subscribe below and make sure you hit the notification bell so whenever I post new videos, you'll get the notice. I imagine you have some comments and I would certainly welcome them. Throw those down below. And in the meantime, stay safe and everybody take care. And until we meet again.
Jag är somalier och jag rappar mina rötter, ey. 15 000 det är bara mina fötter, ey. Jag är somali, rappar Mali.